So just a quick intro from me, guys. This video is going to be focused on manhood. I'm just going to be asking 4 guys that I know questions, just general questions about manhood, men's mental health. This video, I'm not going to be taking up any part of it. I'm not going to be biased. I'm not going to spread my opinion. I'm just getting a general view for what these 4 people believed. So I'm going to shout out their Instagrams in the description below. I really appreciate these guys for helping out. And let's get to the video. Right, so would you like to state your name?
Yeah, my name is Isaac.
Oh, actually, I got this one to a text.
Oh.
State your name, cuz.
Edward Sadler. Why did I say that like I'm some kind of madman? Edward Sadler.
Would you like to state your name?
I'm Harry.
Nice.
My name is Isaac.
Do you want to state your name?
Yeah, Seth.
What is being a man?
Okay, for me, being a man is being responsible for your own self-growth, your learning. What?
Look at the camera.
Oh.
Not me, look at the camera.
Oh, okay.
I would say a man is someone who's emotionally and financially stable. You know, they handle themselves well, respect themselves in public and both public and private places. Yeah, I'd say that pretty much, yeah.
Being responsible for your own self, like your self-growth, your learning, and being just like a good human in the sense where you know your identity, you have a purpose, and you know, yeah, you're just responsible for your own self. Like you're no longer relying on your parents or other people to better yourself. You've taken it into your own hands.
There's the stereotypes and the social expectations of what you would describe a typical man to be, and I guess people expect him to be the loud one in the room, the kind of protective or defensive, fairly kind of big muscular person, someone who has their own like physical presence.
I think sort of strength, but not in like a physical sense, more like a mental and almost like a presence. Like you're there, you support, you fulfill, like you, I guess like the common traits of looking after like a family or something.
Expectations of a man, I think men are expected to be less emotionally kind of in tuned. I don't think that male emotions obviously exist on the same level as women's do, but I think from a man's perspective, there isn't enough respect paid to men's emotions, and also men don't pay enough respect to their own emotions. I feel like a typical expectation of a man is they're expected, or you may expect yourself to keep your emotions contained rather than being able to express them as easily as others may do.
Do you understand the dichotomy between men and women?
There definitely is a difference there, and there's definitely a relationship that they definitely rely on each other, like it's inseparable. But there definitely is a difference there, and it's like it's kind of hard to figure out. You know, you have so many people arguing that there's so many differences between men and women, and then you have so many people saying there's loads of similarities, and I guess those similarities are bigger than the differences.
Obvious, there's the biological differences, right? Socially, difference between men and women, I feel like today there shouldn't be as many, and there shouldn't be the social expectations that differentiate between men and women, right? But the differences now that are still in society, I guess you could talk about the wage gap, financial differences, and there is still that looming expectation that men have the kind of, there's like a patriarchy either within a family or within society, in the business world particularly speaking, but it's different to how it was 100 years ago. There's not the differences that, you know, women are expected to be domesticated and be at home.
I understand the dichotomy, but I don't think that should define men and women. Like I think you can pretty much like fluidly change between them. I don't think men have like a preset role or women should have a preset role, and I'm all for men or women challenging the gender role kind of thing.
There is still a difference between men and women. There's an uneven distribution of maybe like understanding and respect for women and men. There's an imbalance of men in higher status positions and jobs and roles. So there's probably not an even representation of women in society.
Do you think men talk about their mental health with each other enough?
No, unfortunately not.
No, because yeah, just from experience, I guess we don't.
I think the main reason is we feel slightly more shy towards talking about these things, and society does not allow us to. I feel like it needs to be more highlighted and more, people need to be more aware of this topic. That's what I would say.
Most suicides in the UK, I think it's 80% of men,
Yeah, something like that.
and that's crazy. Like, and that's
75, I think.
That's crazy. That's not even. That's only been talked about now, but that is a crazy statistic in the first place, and loads of them are even like under the age of 25, and that is that's suicide. That's like the biggest. That's the edge of mental health. That's not even just small at all.
Problem.
Exactly.
No, I think there needs to be more into that, because talking is the best way to get it out, and sort of the best way to first approach the issue. And if you don't talk in the first place, then nothing's going to happen. So I think definitely you need more.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't think they do. I think that mental health is such a huge kind of debate in society at the moment, and really something that everyone should take like 100% seriously. And regardless of your gender, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, I think everyone faces mental health difficulties for different reasons, and everyone has to cope with mental health at parts in their life.
Even just from experience, like with my own dad and even myself, just mental health and stuff and just being brought up, we were just kind of taught to butter it up a little bit and to just keep on going and keep on moving, and I guess that can help as a distraction, but if you bust it up for too long, it probably will just explode, like yourself imploding yourself. So I don't think guys have enough discussions on that. I do definitely think it's improving, but it still need more, as long as the discussions are meaningful and not just stating the obvious.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's ego, or do you think it's just embarrassing?
I think it's the idea of not wanting to be seen as weak. Like historically, like socially, men have been sort of conditioned to not really cry, not really show emotion. Like I said before about having the strength, like being a presence, like being a strong like provider, it's not really something that's allowed.
I think that men between each other, they don't talk about mental health enough. I know from a personal perspective, I'm comfortable to open up to my friends, but it's not a regular thing. You know, me and my mates wouldn't regularly sit down and ask each other like how we really are and how what's going on all up in there. I don't know if it's a fact that women speak about it more easily and speak about it more often, but I think in general speaking, mental health still isn't spoken about enough, and I think it's whatever we can do to get it more kind of vocalised will definitely be more helpful. I think that men, you know, there's a big campaign at the moment explaining how men face mental health difficulties, and it really should be a thing that you should speak about with your friends and family, that especially other men around you, because people can relate and people will relate with you. So yeah, I think it needs to be spoken about a bit more, rather than feeling like you have to keep it all inside.
Do you have people around you who support you emotionally?
Yeah, I do. I'm very close with my family, and I can talk to them, and I do talk to them about a lot of things. So yeah, I feel like families should be encouraged to stick together and help and speak to each other about these minute things that we might not normally talk about on a daily basis.
I do, yeah, and I'm very like thankful to have those people, and I think it's definitely helped me personally to have that.
Yeah, definitely. Got some good friends I can always rely on, and I got my family I can always rely on. So those are people I can definitely always rely on, and I can always rely on myself to an extent, for like this smaller mental ruts you hit, and the smaller problems you hit. I think you should be able to rely on yourself to get yourself out of that, and you do that just by, in your good times, in your good periods where you feel capable, you need to build up positive disciplines and positive coping mechanisms, so that when you do hit your bottom, or when you do have a face a problem, it just kind of kicks in. Like if you have been employing positive habits of like working out, jogging, breaking down problems into smaller steps, you know, when your life gets a bit ish, that just kicks in. Whereas if you've been employing stuff like turning to drugs, turning to other bad ways of coping, then that's going to kick in. So you should be able to always, I feel that goes in part with being a man, you should always help yourself to an extent. But obviously there's stuff that happens in life that we all need people to help us with.
What's the first thing you resort to when you're in a poor mental state?
Pray. As a Christian man, I feel like it's important to pray. You know, pray, read your Bible. The first person who can help you in anything is none other than Christ himself, because he's already said it, that he's there for all of us. So I think the first thing we can do is just to pick up our Bibles, to pray and ask him, tell him all our problems.
Poor mental state. I think a lot of people relate to, if you have a lot of mental pressures going on, you feel like you close down a bit. You really get inside your own head, and you'll probably sit in your room quietly, not talk to anyone about it. I think the main reason we're making this video, or one of the main reasons, is that when you feel like you're locked inside your own head, the best way to express it is to really kind of, to get it out of your head is to express it and talk to people, your friends, your loved ones, people close to you.
I guess I sort of resort to sort of a dialogue in my head. Like, I guess I sort of retreat and just sort of think for a bit first. And then after thinking for a bit, I think if I'm ready to approach that with somebody else, then I'll take the steps to do that.
Best thing to do is just get it out, express it, speak to you. Because if you're speaking to another person and they view it from a third person perspective, they'll be able to help you understand your issues better. And it helps having a second voice, a second mind working on the same problem. Everyone's had problems in the past with mental pressures, mental difficulties. You know, people may have lost loved ones, lost family members, but you can't let that get trapped in your own mind state, because it will affect your everyday life. The best thing to do with that is use it to build yourself stronger, talk to people, plan out how you can overcome the difficulty. And that's what I do. The first thing I do, to answer your question, is I'd probably get in touch with my mates or my girlfriend and just explain to them what's happening because it helps you clear your head, and then you can kind of plan out your next steps.
As a non-Christian man, I feel like the first thing that you can, or my little advice I can give, as the first thing you can resort to, is to just sit down, have a breather, relax a bit, maybe do things that you enjoy a bit more to take your mind off it.
Do you think negative traits and behaviour are being normalised for men?
Bad habits can be normalised by social media. You'll see, you know, like the people you listen to, the music you listen to, your celebrities and movie stars or the rappers, stuff like that. You might think it's normal to deal with your issues through like abuse of alcohol or neglect, or just being like just violence or anger. But the best way to deal with things is to be expressive, and I find that personally sport and exercise is such a good way to get your body moving. And when you're doing all of that, whether it's football, rugby, you're going on a run, you're playing some golf, whatever you're doing, clearing your head, you forget about whatever's sitting in your mind at that time, and just being out and about just replaces that. And it's good. Can this aeroplane f*** off? But yeah, exercise, do some workouts, do some stuff to get your heart rate up, and it will replace whatever is going on in your head. And you shouldn't be influenced by what is kind of slowly becoming normal due to platforms like social media, Twitter and Instagram, that you see people doing to deal with their issues. You should find something that works best for you. Don't follow like a trend that you see.
I think definitely with social media, there's the idea that you have to compare yourself to somebody else. And I think if you're all day on your phone, just 24/7 swiping through social media, you're subtly like in your head comparing yourself to everyone. And I think that's so wrong, because you can spend a lifetime doing that and it will drive you mad and it doesn't help with anything. And if anything, it can make your situation worse.
I don't think they are being normalised. I think they're being overlooked. That's what I would say. They're not being normalised. I think there's more freedom given to them to express themselves. Perhaps maybe the female gender does not have as much freedom to openly express this.
Elaborate.
Well, what I mean is, in terms of, for example, in terms of sexual freedom, other things, in terms of even violence and stuff like that, it's normal for a guy to come across as violent. They're seen as the typical bad boy, and it's even deemed attractive by a few, like a couple percentage of females. But in terms of the flip side, it's not such, and I believe you understand that, yeah.
Do you think being strong in your masculinity is inherently toxic?
The question there is like, well, it depends what you think is masculine. In English, like for my A level, we looked at masculinity, what it means, and like this kind of new age masculinity and like old age masculinity, and I feel like there needs to be a balance. I mean, to be masculine, like I guess you just have to ask loads of people what they think masculinity is, but I think the reoccurring thing of being able to provide for yourself, to put food on the table, be able to support yourself and be accountable to yourself, that's what kind of like being a man is, and then everything else just kind of accentuation of that, or just extension of that.
No, I don't think it is. I think if you interpret it incorrectly, like, and say you start to go out and you start to be abusive and you start to be rude, then I think you've missed the point, and I don't think that's inherent to the traits of a man. I think that's someone perceiving it incorrectly. So no, I'd say it's not toxic, it's people sort of take the wrong idea or take advantage of it.
Yeah, if we talk about what we think masculinity is, and traditionally masculinity, is associated with power, influence, status, and money, affluence. If you're trying to be as strong as you can in a masculine way, I think it can come across as toxic. If your mindset is solely focused on money, wealth, and status, and neglecting things like empathy and emotions, then that's a toxic environment to be in.
No, I don't think so. And the reason behind this is, being confident and thinking strong in your own masculinity, I feel like is deemed as toxic masculinity today, or even what's the term for it? I lost the term, man. But yeah, anyway, I feel like it's important for men during this day and age to strongly think about themselves and to believe in themselves, because I feel like there's a motivational factor there, because it helps them and it pushes them, it boosts their morale to move forward in terms of their finance, in terms of work, in terms of whatever they're doing, whatever they're indulging themselves in. It boosts them to work harder and go further if they believe in themselves. But if they don't, this would be the opposite.
You also have like masculinity of old masculinity is like being so these are some things that people think masculinity is. So that's being like sexually promiscuous and having loads of like getting loads of females, being financially stable or wealthy, not caring, being physically dominant or physically built, having a low pitched voice, speaking less, not caring, being well dressed. And these are kind of external things. And then there's like new age masculinity, which is like they can respect women and take care of women. So you have to ask yourself, like, what is being masculine?
But don't you think the definition of being masculine is also being empathetic and also being loving of their family and their kids? Or do you think that it's just that the common view now is that just being masculine is just being that one side, that dominant side, that less agreeable side?
I think that the view should be, as you said, it should be someone that's not just in touch with like the financial and business sectors, but also with a private life and with personal like emotions and personal the private sphere. But I don't think it is. No, I think that masculinity, the first things that come into people's mind is how it's been portrayed throughout centuries, and the traditional term of masculinity. Like I studied English and literature, and masculinity is a massive topic that's spoken about in any kind of theatre or writing from across the last like 2 or 3 centuries, but even before that. But in like, you could use America as a great example, the beginning of the 20th century, the American dream, and that whole kind of push for money, influence and wealth, that's been such a massive factor and pressure on men, and still people may not recognise it, but still today that's still a pressure, and I think that's really shaped how masculinity is defined. Masculinity should be, as you said, it should be that paternity and emotions of protection and care for your family and for your peers.
Battle the brute.